So one of the feelings that I got this morning really disturbed me a little bit because it related to George Lucas. I love George Lucas. I grew up with George Lucas, with his success, with what he achieved, and suddenly realizing that the man had sold Lucasfilm to Disney, along with Industrial Light and Magic and LucasArts and all of these companies that he was famous for, and suddenly having achieved it kind of left me in limbo, because I suddenly felt, for as long as he was achieving an extraordinary life, as long as he was doing things, I kept sort of feeling I was doing extraordinary things too. I was moving in the direction of my mentor, my icon. And then all of a sudden, it was almost like there was this resolution. He had signed over the company. Kathleen Kennedy was going to continue to run the company. And, everything sort of changed. Everything changed. The franchises for Star Wars and Indiana Jones moved across to Disney. And it was a different world all of a sudden. It wasn't the world of striving on making things happen and following his course of how he made it, adding value, creating value. It became a different setting. It became a setting of accomplishment, completion, and now a deep-seated commitment to leaving behind a legacy. And no matter how much research you do, it sort of gives you this feeling of the man did it in some very quick and easy steps. It took time, and it took a lot of energy. It took a lot of his commitment. It really was very clever how he did it. But again, when you consider that Disney called everything outside of the movies and the TV shows non-canon, you start to realize that just about everything else was just padding, really. All of the non-canon materials, all of the materials that were produced under license, through assignment of copyrights, were really just padding to create this giant-sized franchise. Not to say that it wasn't valuable. It was certainly $1 billion earning, film at a time kind of a franchise. So really worthwhile getting to buy this franchise. I think Disney made it very clear when they were looking at buying Lucasfilm, and based upon their belief system that you are looking for potential you're looking always for potential mini Disneys, and Lucasfilm was a mini Disney, and I think that became the formulated structure, the strategy around buying new businesses. They did that when Ike Perlmutter came across with Marvel Entertainment Company. So Marvel being a mini Disney, here's a company with lots of characters, with lots of franchising, with lots of licensing opportunities, with lots of stories. You got to define the company that you potentially want to buy. So Disney's purchase of Lucasfilm, in essence, was the purchase of a company that had already had interactions with Disney, for a long time before the purchase. For a long time before the purchase, the Disney had already licensed, under the tutelage of Michael Ovitz and a few others. Disney had already basically had a familial tie with Lucasfilm, with Star Tours and all of these incredible Star Wars related rides that Lucas was very involved with. In fact, many people said for a very long time that Industrial Light and Magic was really the new Imagineers. And because of that, they became a target for acquisition. When Lucas started to think about handing over, creating a new home for Star Wars, there was no better contender than Disney. Disney was definitely the contender for purchase of Lucasfilm and the George Lucas franchises. What's really interesting, and I think this is fascinating, is because most people fail to build their businesses. They fail to really build their ideal business because they don't realize the level of commitment that you need, but not just that, but also what has to be done in order to create the sizzle. And I'm not saying that there was no stake. There was stake. There was a lot of stake. But there was a lot of sizzle as well. Lucasfilm went on to be sold for a lot of money. There are variations in statements. I've heard various amounts from 2.8 billion to 4.6 billion to stocks and shares. Collectively, now a capitalization of about 6 billion. Whatever the case is, Lucasfilm made a very clever move in the direction of made a very, very clever decision when they were creating content. And I want to take you to something that's very, very interesting, that for a moment maybe ponder upon, which is many times people in the movie industry, artists, actors, you know, they say it's so hard to get into this industry. They say it's incredibly hard to get into films. And the truth of it is that, you know, like any business, like anything that you do out there, you know, don't expect instant stardom. You know, if you are working, you know, if you're handing over your resume and you're wanting to work at a local shop somewhere, or a fast foods deli, or a franchise, or whatever, and you get your resumes out there, if they like the resume and they see and you've got some kind of contact already, verbal contact, they will say come in, and you'll come in for an interview. And then if they like you and they think that they can work with you, they'll take you on and you'll be working with them. You know, they'll try you out on something small. Most companies do. And if they like that and they've had their toe in the water with you and they feel good about that relationship, they'll give you some more work to do. And that relationship will grow. It'll become something quite worthwhile. And eventually, you know, after years or many, many years, or even a short space of time or whatever it is, you'll discover that you're now growing in that direction. You know, if you're working for a conglomerate or a major corporation or an international corp or whatever it is, you'll find that there'll be all kinds of successes coming your way as they learn to trust you more and more. So trust grows with your ability to perform, your ability to deliver. And as that growth continues, you'll find yourself going, well, you know, I'm a lot more ensconced in this. And even though I'm constantly, daily having to prove myself, because you're only as good as your last project, your last film, your last concept, you start to realize that, you know, you're getting stronger. You're getting far more in that zone where they're potentially going to say to you, look, we'd like you to become manager or supervising manager or the CEO, possibly even. Okay? But it's taken many years to get there. And I think that's what happens with the music industry, with films. People go, well, I've put myself out there, you know. I got 3 or 4 songs out there. I got my resumes. I've done a few videos. And they expect immediate stardom. And it doesn't happen that way. You have to build your portfolio. You have to focus on your portfolio. And in the case of George Lucas and Star Wars, producing lots and lots of content and adding to the content, adding to the library, adding to the encyclopedia of Star Wars, the characters, the situations, adding to it, is what got Disney excited. See, Disney had already had a relationship with Lucasfilm. They had a relationship right from the start, you know, whether it was through the method of distribution. Disney loved the idea of having a Star Wars ride. It just made sense. A lot of people would come there to Disney World, and it just felt good. It felt like a good relationship. And the more Lucasfilm, LucasArts, Industrial Light and Magic, which continue to make special effects for a lot of Disney movies, the more that relationship continued to grow and blossom, the more it just became a natural acquisition. It became something you do. Many times you buy your cost centers. You buy the thing that is costing you money when you're running a business. You know, if I'm hiring something or I'm renting something, you know, I will naturally gravitate towards owning the building. I will naturally gravitate towards owning the equipment that we are continually hiring. It just doesn't make any sense to continually hire. So that kind of a transition is very natural, and it's very normal for businesses to undertake. It's worth your while today to sort of really think about where you're going, the kind of value that you're adding to your brands, not just your company, because your company is an entity by itself, but each one of your brands can turn into a franchise, especially if it's making money, and you can license it. Under licensing, you can basically have other people play with and create your stories and continue to promulgate what you're doing via a very clever means through a process of franchising or licensing. So that in itself becomes a value-based system on its own, and you have lots of brands, and having lots of brands creates lots of value. Having lots of value, you continue to add value to the company, which in turn becomes the entity that becomes sought after. When Disney looked at Lucasfilm, they saw Lucasfilm as a bunch of things. They saw it as characters, situations, films, renewable income streams, libraries. They saw it as promulgation of characters. They saw it as an ideology, a thinking, a philosophy. They saw the values in Star Wars from so many perspectives. They saw it in terms of its music, in terms of its characterization, in terms of its proclivity to continue producing more characters, producing more things. So it then became very cleanly and very simply a natural order to business, which is Lucasfilm approaching Disney and saying, you know, I'm ready to retire. I'm looking for a home for Star Wars. I'm looking for a big brother to take over, for something that can add greater value than what I can at this moment. I'm tired. You know, this is what he said. Lucas said, I'm tired. I originally had a vision for more than 6 films. I've made 6. There was another trilogy, but there's more. There's standalone films, there's standalone adventures. You know, there are rides, there's computer animation, there are animated films, there's a proliferation of paper materials, of online, internet, comic books and graphic novels. It's everything that Star Wars is. You know, Star Wars and Indiana Jones are many things, and including Howard the Duck, etc. I mean, you know, look at Guardians of the Galaxy and the sudden appearance of, you know, Howard the Duck at the end of that, and the idea that it's sitting inside Marvel gives you a very plain picture of the fact that it's all through licensing, it's all through acquisitions, and characters are purchased. You know, somebody might not be able to do something with the character, but you might sell it. Superman, the character, Spiegel and Schuster, you know, you're talking about people potentially who go, look, this is as much as I can do with this character, but this company is interested in buying it. Maybe just sell it to them. You know, $70 odd, I think was the purchase price for Superman. Okay, it was a long time ago, but I'm not going to. The point is this: is that we really need to focus on our businesses. We need to add value on an ongoing basis, and you'll see the magic that comes from that.